It was supposed to be a romantic afternoon in the Italian Riviera. You know, sun-kissed piazzas, fresh seafood by the sea, and maybe, just maybe, a cheeky gelato or even 3. But what we got was rain. Relentless, unapologetic, I will ruin your hair and your mood kind of rain. Today, we are taking you on a wild little ride through Rapallo, even in the rain. From a desperate search for food, to the most delicious seafood surprise. From moody skies and ancient gates, to sunny piazzas, basilicas, castles, and gelato of course. It all started like a cinematic tragedy, hangry, soaked, and betrayed by Google Maps, but spoiler alert. The weather cleared up, and Rapallo revealed its magic. So, whether you're planning a trip to the Ligurian coast or just dreaming of one, make sure you stick around. Because this rainy day story turns into one of our most memorable walks in Italy. We have been driving for hours from Turin, and my feet were numb. My soul was tired, and my stomach was growling louder than the thunder. We arrived in Rapallo thinking that we were entering a quaint little coastal dream. Instead, we walked straight into a culinary nightmare. Google said the restaurants were open. But guess what? Google lied. I'm not exaggerating when I say that every single restaurant was closed. And it felt like the entire town was fasting. And even the restaurants that were still open informed us that their last order was already over. I pity my husband, as he has been driving for almost 4 hours, from Turin, in this rain. We had skipped breakfast too, and I was wondering, where does he still have the energy to hold on to the umbrella in one hand, and to the iPhone in the other hand? We walked into the old town, navigating the narrow alleys, looking for food, and while using the buildings, to find some shelter from the rain at the same time. The entire town was deserted, and I am not kidding. We are in the tail end of May, there should be more crowd around us, the shops should be open. When we reached this little piazza, known as Piazza Venezia, I found a spot where I could hide from the rain and refused to walk further. My husband did not give up and he continued to look for a place for lunch, and then suddenly he hailed me to join him. I walked towards him, ready to scold him, but then suddenly, it was like a lighthouse in a storm. A trattoria was open and it was warm and inviting. This one looked like it had dropped straight out of an Italian fairy tale and landed in front of us on purpose. There was soft ambient music playing, candles flickering gently, deep red walls, rustic wooden beams, art-lined walls, wine bottles like silent sentinels along the shelves. And there was no one else. Just us. And darling, they did not disappoint. That seafood was so fresh I'm convinced it swam into the pan willingly. The wine was velvet and it erased the cold from my bones. And then came the vongole, and it was so good that it made me question my entire cooking ability. We must have spent 2 entire days inside, because after lunch, the weather was already brighter, and the rain had totally stopped. I had regained my smile, and although my clothes were still wet, I was ready for adventure. Well, almost ready. Just one more thing to complete an amazing lunch, and now I am fully ready. And pro tip, the best gelatos in Italy are sold in this manner. Do not look for fancy displays with lots of colors. I went pistachio. Obviously, and it's not even a debate. That creamy, nutty green scoop is basically Italy in frozen form. With the clouds clearing and sugar coursing through our veins, we headed toward the heart of Rapallo, until we reached the Basilica of Saints Gervasio and Protarsio. A breeze lifts a few petals from the planted flowers that line the windows and walkways, and the basilica slowly appears, tall, elegant, and unmistakably proud. It's one of the oldest churches in Rapallo and was built way back in the 1100s, though it got a serious Baroque glow-up in the 1600s. Inside, it's like stepping into another world. The hush, the flickering candles and that slightly echoey sound, when your shoes hit the floor, gave me chills every time. It's bigger than it looks from the outside. And it's over 50 meters long, with gorgeous vaulted ceilings and frescoes that look like they were painted just yesterday. Most of the locals still come here, for baptisms, weddings and Sunday Mass. Even tourists like us tend to go quiet when we step inside, and it just demands your respect. We exited back into the street, now slightly more crowded, and a bell rings gently in the background. And I looked back once, as if to say thank you, before continuing. As soon as the rain has stopped, it feels that the crowd started to grow from the ground itself, and suddenly, even the cars and motorbikes started to appear out of nowhere. Can you believe this? Just an hour ago this whole area was deserted, and I cannot remember we walked past any shops that were open. But look at this town now. It made me wonder if we were really in the same town. Have you experienced something similar? Do drop me a comment and let me know. This is Porta della Soline. It doesn't look like much, but this quiet little arch is actually one of the last surviving pieces of Rapallo's medieval walls. So, we're literally walking through what used to be the town's front door. Although it was getting later in the after, it was also getting brighter, as the clouds started to clear up. Right in front of us was the public beach, and we could walk in two directions. I stood there, snapping some photos, while thinking which direction should we head towards first. But my husband had already turned right and was walking towards the November 4th square, so I just followed him. This beach was quiet now, but as you walk along, you can sense how packed and crowded it gets here during the summer season. Oh look, it's our old pal Christopher Columbus. I think this man has more statues in Italy than gelato shops. But this one's kinda epic as he is towering over the port, looking like he's searching for a Wi-Fi signal. Next, we had to cross a bridge in order to step onto the pier. And from the bridge itself, you can get amazing views of the seafront, and on the other side, you enjoy equally amazing views of the town's skyline, which I will just show you in a minute. And here, you can rent your own taxi boat if you want to visit the nearby towns in style. You are able to charter your own boat to Portofino or even the Cinque Terre, should you wish so. We are now at the Molo Ducar degli Abruzzi, and I swear just saying that makes you feel more glamorous. From here, the boats bob gently in the marina and the pastel-colored buildings of Rapallo form a postcard-perfect curve in the background. The views from here are simply unreal. And behind us, the sea stretches out like liquid glass. In front of us, Rapallo curves around the bay like a pastel amphitheater, with pink, ochre, mint green, all stacked up like gelato scoops on a sugar cone. From here, you can see almost the entire promenade. And there's the castle in the distance, just waiting for its dramatic close-up. We will have the chance to walk to the castle later on in this video, so subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. But first, let me tell you a bit of history about this amazing town, because, looking at Rapallo from out here, it's hard not to wonder, how did this dreamy little town even happen? Rapallo is old, like, properly ancient, and people have been living here since Roman times. Back then, it was a sleepy fishing village that sat along the route between the Roman Empire's power centers. By the Middle Ages, Rapallo was kind of the introvert of the Italian Riviera, quiet, hardworking, and very into salt trading. Let us climb up this staircase, which should bring us over the main road, and I'll continue my story once up there, after I catch my breath. But don't let the calm views and beautiful coastline fool you, because Rapallo got sacked by pirates, tangled in Genoese politics, and even hosted a couple of very dramatic peace treaties. Rapallo got its name into the history books, not once but twice. First, the Treaty of Rapallo in 1920 redrew European borders after World War I. Then, there is the Treaty of Rapallo, in 1922, between Germany and Soviet Russia. Okay, geography time. And Rapallo is right here, on the Ligurian coast, tucked between Portofino and Chiavari and just 35 minutes southeast of Genoa by train. And if you are walking towards Portofino, along the main road, known as Via San Michele di Pargana, you will walk past this castle-like building. This is Villa Lago Maggiore, and it is one of those classic Riviera homes built by wealthy Genoese families who wanted a front-row seat to the sea. After the villa, the path gets even quieter and it is just the waves, a few chirpy birds, and your footsteps echoing on the stone. From here, we can enjoy the turquoise water, a few yachts bobbing lazily, and also the ivy-covered walls, bougainvillea spilling over balconies, and glimpses of old villas tucked behind olive trees. We walked all the way until we could just see the beach of San Michele di Pargana in the distance. But the clouds were starting to look moody again, and I wasn't about to get caught in another Rapallo downpour. So we turned around. And now, I can get a second look at the beautiful hotels and buildings, which we did not pay close attention to when we walked past the first time. Soon we reached the port area, and we walked past the marina again, this time veering off toward Vittorio Veneto seafront, which has this beautiful beach promenade that leads to Rapallo Castle. You're back in town, walking along the wide promenade, and the sea is calmer now, and the late afternoon light makes everything look like it was filmed through a vintage movie lens. Can we take a moment to appreciate how every Italian pensioner here looks like they just walked off a Dolce & Gabbana ad? The seafront stretches for about 1 kilometer along the sea, and every step is postcard-worthy. One side, you've got the colorful facades of Rapallo's seafront hotels and cafes. The other side, pure blue Mediterranean bliss. There is a kiosk there, and if you stick around, I'll bring you and show you how special it is. Further ahead is also the ferry terminal of Rapallo, and it is where you can buy the ferry tickets and catch the boats to Santa Margherita and Portofino. In the last few episodes, I have brought you on a full tour of these two towns, and if you have missed these two videos, make sure you do watch them. The links are up here and down below as well. Right at the end of the promenade stands Rapallo's crown jewel, and this is the Rapallo Castle. It is this tiny seaside fortress, just casually chilling at the edge of the water like a 16th century Instagram model. This castle was built in 1551, after one too many pirate raids. This fortress was erected to defend Rapallo, and it even has a drawbridge. And yes, it looks amazing at sunset. I'll be honest, because I didn't expect to fall for Rapallo. And to begin with, it wasn't even the star of our trip. But maybe that's the charm, because it doesn't try too hard. What about you? Would you add Rapallo to your Italian adventure? Well, don't rush to a conclusion, because there is still more to see, so follow me, and let us find out more. What is this town all about? Leaving the castle behind, and instead of turning back into town, we both keep walking, drawn forward by curiosity and by what lies ahead. Now, most people stop at the castle. And honestly, I get it. Dramatic walls, sea views, history. Perfect finale, right? But my husband was curious, and so he kept walking, at first, just a little further, then even further, through a narrow passageway. Then we entered a curved tunnel-like walkway, with old stone walls, like a hidden passage. And then the views opened up, and it felt like one of those places you're not sure you're supposed to be in. It felt a little cinematic, just like the start of a Bond scene, but we were just two tourists, with our iPhone. And right here, where a stone terrace clings to the cliffside and where the sea stretches infinitely on our right, Rapallo curved behind us, like a painting. We were blown away by the views. Just standing here, it was quiet and there was no crowd, no road signs, and instead it was just the sky, the sea, and Rapallo, looking like a Renaissance photograph. And talking about photographs, there were literally dozens of these, pinned to the wall, that stretches along this promenade. I wonder who are all these people in all these photographs we came across. So, if you ever visit Rapallo, make sure that you don't skip this walk. It's called Via of Energy, and it curves along the water, hugging the cliffs, and leads you past Rapallo's last quiet whispers. We came back near the base of the castle, close to Piazza Giovanni Battista Pastene, and here we paused for a moment, deciding what to do next. Because the sun hadn't set, and neither had our curiosity. I always say, towns are like people. You meet them once, but come back at a different hour, a different mood, and suddenly, you see a whole new side. We slipped into a narrow alley off the piazza, and it is not the one we came through earlier. And immediately, it felt less touristy and more lived in. We entered the old town again, but from a different angle. And, what a difference! The streets were quieter and softer, like the town was slowly exhaling after a long day. But the more we walked, and it felt that the more crowded it started to get, once again. And then before long, we were back in the touristy area again, but that is a good thing, because we need to head back towards that kiosk, the one I wanted to show you. Okay, so how big is Rapallo today? Well, not tiny, but definitely not massive as well, and in fact it is just perfectly cozy. The whole town is home to around 29,500 people as of early 2025, and there are slightly more women than men living here, if you are keen to know. The age vibe is interesting, and the average age is around 50 years, so about a third of the town are retirees. And just look at this cozy little cafe. I definitely would not mind to retire here as well. But don't worry, there's still a healthy dose of young energy, teens and 20-somethings making up about 15% of the crowd. Alright, now if you want to live here, rental for a one-bedroom flat in the center will set you back around 700 to 900 euros a month. So while Rapallo might feel premium for a coastal Ligurian town, it's still significantly more affordable than Milan, which is a major international financial and cultural hub. Milan is another interesting city in Italy, and remind me to bring you for a full tour of it as well. I will try to feature it right before I bring you to visit Lake Como. One thing that hits you straight off the bat is the fact that Rapallo is not ultra fancy like Portofino. And the second thing is that Rapallo is slightly more accessible than Portofino, as it has a train station. In our previous video, we took the train from Rapallo to Santa Margherita, and the journey literally took less than 10 minutes. And here is the train station. You can buy the train tickets on site, using the ticketing machine, but if you're not familiar with this method, there is also a ticketing office, right at the station itself. And if you are taking the train, please be mindful about your personal belongings. There is always a chance you come across pickpockets. The trains can get really crowded at times, especially if you are traveling towards the Cinque Terre region. It seems like the sun is just starting to set. I wanted to bring you to that kiosk, but I must have taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. We were now in the back alleys of Rapallo, and here, there were more motorbikes than people. In front of us is the church of Santo Stefano, and people stroll past without realizing they've just walked by one of the oldest and most soulful buildings in town. At this time, it is already closed for the day. But this church dates back to the 11th century, though some believe it stands on an even older Christian site from around the 9th century, and that makes it over 1,000 years old. Like I said, it has already closed for the day, so we won't be able to show you the interior. So let us continue. There is one last thing I would like to show to you. As we are walking, notice how the mood and ambience changes as the light starts to fade and the day gradually turns to night. The lightings from the shops and buildings definitely give the entire town a different vibe, create a softer side of Rapallo, and set a more romantic tone. As we walk around town, I was also scanning the restaurants, trying to find the perfect place for dinner. To be honest, I was still full from lunch. But the nice aroma of food, as we walked past many of the restaurants, was teasing my nostrils. And it would appear that in Italy, I was constantly hungry, and constantly craving for a gelato or an Aperol spritz. However, my husband did not seem he was in a mood for dinner, as he walked straight past the restaurants and never stopped or asked any questions. Over the last few videos, we have explored Portofino, Camogli, Santa Margherita, and now, we are in Rapallo. 4 towns, all neighbors, but each with its own personality, its own rhythm, and its own surprises. Portofino is gorgeous, elite, like a fashion shoot that got lost in the hills, and a bit posh, with unbelievable views. Santa Margherita is chic but chill and the kind of place where elegance meets espresso, a place where we could live in. Whereas, Camogli for us, is more of a fisherman's daydream, as it is laid back, colorful, like someone spilled a gelato palette down the cliff. So what about Rapallo then? Well, let me show you this little kiosk first and then I will let you know my thoughts. This beautiful round music pavilion appears like a surprise encore, with 12 cream-colored columns, a domed ceiling above, set against the pastel facades of Rapallo. It is known as the Chiosco della Musica, a fancy name, but wait till you see the ceiling striking frescoes. Built in 1929, this beautiful Art Nouveau music pavilion was a gift from Rapallo's emigrants, living in Chile and Argentina. So that was Rapallo. And it is a little moody in the beginning, a little mysterious in the middle, and by the end, it was completely unforgettable. I know it started with rain and hungry stomachs and a wild search for food, but honestly, well, that is what makes it real. But now it's your turn. So, which one of these towns caught your eye the most? Or maybe your heart? And, do let me know in the comments, and tell me why. The sky was turning navy blue and the street lamps were now glowing softly. We walked back to our hotel, and I want to show you the views of Rapallo, from higher up, as night falls. So now we've covered 4 towns so far, and each one, its own little chapter. But wait, we're not done yet. Next week, we're going off the rails, literally, to explore one of Italy's most iconic treasures, known as the Cinque Terre. It will be done in a mini-series of 5 episodes, one for each town. To be honest, I could have done only one video where I show you bits and pieces of each of these towns. But this is not my style. So we are going full out, and we are going to hike thousands of steps, until our legs give up. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that little bell, and tell me in the comments, which of our 4 Ligurian loves stole your heart. For now, allow me to rest, and see you in the next video.